The 12th of March, 1938. German troops cross the border into Austria and invade the country without firing a single shot. They are not met with armed resistance, but with cheers and flowers. On the 1st of September 1939, Germany invades Poland, and the Nazi regime employs propaganda to convince civilians and soldiers that the Jews are not only subhuman creatures, but also dangerous enemies of the German Reich. The regime aims to gather support for policies meant to permanently remove Jews from areas of German settlement. After the invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, particularly after the catastrophic German defeat at Stalingrad in February 1943, Nazi propaganda further stirs up hate and fosters a climate of indifference toward the fate of the Jews. It stresses themes linking Soviet communism to European Jewry, presenting the German state as the defender of Western culture against what the Nazis call the Judeo-Bolshevik threat, and painting an apocalyptic picture of what would happen if the Soviets won the war. To prevent this, not only the SS and soldiers, but also pro-Nazi civilians in the German Reich, including those in Austria, participate in the persecution and mass murder of Jews and Soviets across Europe. One such murder occurs in February 1945, when 419 Soviet officers escape from the Mauthausen concentration camp. In the days that follow, almost all are hunted down by the SS, along with Austrian civilians, including boys and women. Some are killed with axes, in what will become known as the Mühlviertel Rabbit Hunt. After Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany on the 30th of January 1933, he immediately began preparing Germany for war. One of his first actions was to rebuild and expand the German military, which had been significantly restricted by the Treaty of Versailles. By 1935, he openly defied the treaty by reintroducing conscription and increasing the size of the army. Additionally, Hitler established the Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, and expanded the navy, significantly boosting Germany's military capabilities. Hitler also focused on strategic foreign alliances to strengthen Germany's position. He forged the Rome-Berlin Axis with Italy in 1936, aligning with Mussolini's fascist regime. This was followed by the anti-Comintern Pact with Japan in the same year, aimed at countering the influence of the Soviet Union. These alliances not only provided Germany with strategic partners, but also signaled its aggressive military intentions to the world. In 1936, Hitler further demonstrated his aggressive foreign policy by remilitarizing the Rhineland, a direct violation of the Treaty of Versailles. This bold move went unchallenged by the other European powers, emboldening Hitler's expansionist agenda. His annexation of Austria in the Anschluss of 1938 and the occupation of Czechoslovakia in 1939 revealed his relentless drive to expand German territory. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. The early stages of the war saw rapid German advances in Europe, with the fall of Poland, the invasion of France, and the evacuation of British forces from Dunkirk in 1940. Following the successful campaign in France, Hitler set his sights on the Soviet Union. On Sunday, the 22nd of June 1941, under the codename Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union, its ally in the war against Poland. 3 million German soldiers were supported by Finnish, Romanian, Hungarian, Italian, Slovak, and Croatian troops. Within weeks, German divisions conquered the Baltic republics of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. For Nazi Germany, this attack was not an ordinary military operation. The war against the Soviet Union was a war of annihilation between German fascism and Soviet communism, a racial war between German Aryans and subhuman Slavs and Jews. On the 2nd of March 1944, German Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel issued a secret decree known as Action Kugel, ordering that Allied prisoners of war who attempted to escape but were recaptured, especially officers and senior non-commissioned officers, should be handed over to the Nazi Party Intelligence Service, the SD, who should execute them in Mauthausen concentration camp. Following this directive, 5,700 Soviet officers were deported to Mauthausen. The Nazi regime went to great lengths to hide the brutal treatment of these prisoners, and they were deliberately excluded from the camp's official records. To the German military's information office, which was responsible for prisoners of war under international law, these men were reported as escaped and not recaptured. This ensured that they vanished from the Nazi bureaucracy's records and perished in silence in Block 20, known as Mauthausen's Death Block. Block 20 was sealed off from the rest of the camp, located in the quarantine section. Up to 1,800 prisoners were often packed in this area, forced to sleep on the bare floor without blankets or shoes, wearing only a shirt and pants. These men, who officially did not exist, were given a thin turnip soup only once every 3 days. From 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., they were confined to a small yard, enduring relentless exercise drills and being driven around the barracks in a crouched duck walk, while being beaten with truncheons by their guards. Ivan Blakhanov, one of the Mauthausen inmates who survived this ordeal, recalled after the war, "Hundreds of living skeletons, barely able to stand, covered in bristly hair with inflamed eyes and tightly clenched teeth, crouched, fell, stood up again, and continued." In rainy weather, inmates had to lie on the wet, dirty ground to form a carpet so that the SS man would not dirty his boots. The prisoners were regularly sprayed with a hose, and the barracks windows were left open overnight. Many caught pneumonia and died. On average, 10 to 20 prisoners died each day. Over 4,000 Soviet prisoners of war perished in this death block between spring 1944 and January 1945. Facing the certainty of death, the prisoners decided to act. The night of the 2nd of February 1945 was clear and bitterly cold. In Block 20 of the Mauthausen concentration camp, absolute silence prevailed. The SS men in the 3 nearby watchtowers, wrapped in heavy coats, were either dozing or nodding off. Suddenly, chaos erupted. The windows were thrown open, and like an avalanche, 1,000 brave men charged toward the machine gun fire. The prisoners completely surprised the guards with their assault, using 2 fire extinguishers to attack the SS man on one tower and spray them with white foam. They also pelted their captors with stones and substitute soap. Ultimately, they captured the tower along with its machine gun, and with fierce shooting, they neutralized the SS men on the other 2 watchtowers. They then short-circuited the electric barbed wire fence on the 2.5-meter-high perimeter wall of Block 20 using wet blankets. In great haste, they pushed, pulled, and hoisted each other over the wall, passed through the fences behind it, and ran toward freedom. That night, 419 prisoners managed to escape. Half-starved, barefoot, and dressed in rags, the men trudged through the cold winter night. Meanwhile, the Mauthausen camp commandant, Franz Ziereis, had dispatched SS units with bloodhounds to hunt down the escapees. He also alerted surrounding police stations and enlisted members of the people's militia, the Volkssturm, and the Hitler Youth to assist his men. Even ordinary citizens joined in. The mayor of the local municipality publicly reiterated the commandant's order, declaring, "Tonight, dangerous criminals have broken out of Mauthausen. They are to be shot on sight." The pursuers systematically searched farm after farm, probing the straw and haylofts with long poles where many prisoners had hidden, sometimes firing indiscriminately into the piles and killing those found in cold blood. The wet snow on the road turned red with their blood. Even civilians and members of the Volkssturm, among them fanatical Austrian boys, killed in a frenzy of bloodlust. Some prisoners had their heads split with an axe, their lifeless bodies left where they fell. Leopold Bernberger, a local merchant, became enraged when the police detained rather than killed 7 prisoners. He took matters into his own hands and shot the defenseless men himself. In another instance, a man discovered an escapee in his stable and stabbed him with a pocket knife. His wife then rushed over and slapped the dying man as he lay there. The bodies of some 40 murdered prisoners were taken to Ried in the Riedmark, a village in Upper Austria where the search was based, and stacked in a pile of corpses. Within 24 hours, 300 of the 419 escapees had already been recaptured and killed. 3 weeks later, nearly all the inmates that had escaped had been caught. Apart from 3 courageous families, most farmers turned in the weakened prisoners who sought shelter in their haylofts, stables, and sheds. In reference to the recaptured prisoners, August Eigruber, a regional Nazi party leader, allegedly told Commandant Franz Ziereis, "All these pigs will have to be finished." Out of the 419 inmates who managed to escape from the camp, only 11 are known to have survived the manhunt until the end of World War II. Because Mauthausen concentration camp was located in the Mühlviertel region of Austria, this infamous event became known as the Mühlviertel Hasenjagd, or the Mühlviertel Rabbit Hunt. Towards the end of the war, Mauthausen concentration camp became the destination for evacuations from camps near the front line. Tens of thousands of prisoners arrived in several large transports. Overcrowding, lack of food, and rampant disease led to mass deaths among the prisoners in the final months before liberation. The US Army liberated Mauthausen on the 5th of May 1945, and 3 days later, the Second World War in Europe ended. However, the massacre of almost 500 Soviet prisoners who had tried to escape from Mauthausen concentration camp did not remain unpunished, and the victims' death was revenged. In the following months, August Eigruber, who was implicated in this crime and numerous other atrocities, was tried by an American military court during the Mauthausen-Gusen camp trials. Eigruber, along with some of his co-defendants who had taken part in the hunting down and the killing of escapees, was sentenced to death by hanging and was executed at the Landsberg prison on the 28th of May, 1947. It is estimated that 197,000 prisoners passed through the Mauthausen concentration camp and its subcamps between August 1938 and May 1945. At least 95,000 died there. The 11 Soviet survivors who endured the inhumane conditions in the camp and the subsequent Mühlviertel Rabbit Hunt might have found some solace in knowing that the Mauthausen commandant, Franz Ziereis, also paid for his crimes. He was hunted down, shot by the Americans, and brought to a US hospital in Gusen. Following his death, his corpse, naked except for a bandage on his left arm, was hanged by former prisoners on the camp fence in Gusen. On his back in red they painted Heil Hitler, and on his behind they painted swastikas. Ziereis remained there for several days in such a way that his torso and legs dangled aimlessly over the wire, and only due to the stench of his decay, an army officer eventually ordered the body removed. There were many tears shed for all the victims of the Nazi regime.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.